Most research on workplace wellness starts with a questionnaire, which means it can only find what someone thought to ask about. This report started somewhere else. It draws on real conversations with HR and benefit leaders while they were evaluating, launching, or trying to fix their own programs. So, all the concerns raised in this report are theirs. Here we have Samantha Levin, the Wellness Program Manager at Wellness360, to walk us through the 2026 Workplace Wellness Program Insights report and understand what those conversations revealed. So, engagement is the single most important metric that most leaders use to evaluate their own wellness programs. But the report has argued that engagement is not low because of a weak launch. So, what is your reaction to that?
I agree. And I've seen this play out directly. So we had a client launch with, a strong rollout that looked really good, good communications, leadership buy-in on day one, and engagement still, created, by month three because of the program design really didn't match how their workforce actually worked. So the app was rolled out kind of the same way to everyone, but a big chunk of that population was those frontline workers. So not those desk-based workers, and no one adjusted the onboarding or the access for that reality. A great launch just gets you, first a good first week. And if the design doesn't fit the population using it, you're back to low engagement by the second cycle. And leadership usually blames, the communications plan instead of the thing underneath it, which is that the program wasn't built around how their people actually work.
But then, talking about leaders who have never launched anything, they're already expecting it to go badly. Almost half of our leaders. So, where is this pessimism coming from?
Um, it's reputation mostly. A lot of these leaders have inherited a program that has already failed once, and they sat through enough vendor pitches to recognize the pattern before it happens again. Wellness gets sold with the same optimistic language every time. Employees will love it, is kind of something that they always hear. And leaders who've been burned once stop believing it on the first pitch. The pessimism isn't irrational, it's earned. It's a synonym of the industry really overselling for years.
And then coming back to the leaders who have programs, team and social features were the most requested tactic fixes, and it was followed by automated communication. So, is that an appropriate fix to engagement?
So, those are the two easiest asks to make and the two least likely to actually fix the problem. If engagement is low because the program doesn't reflect how the workload or what they need, adding a leaderboard or an automated nudge doesn't really change any of that. It just kind of makes the same thing broken really loud. What I'd prioritize instead is going back to the program design. So, who it's actually built for, and does it require something from them? So, maybe a device, a login, time at the desk that they don't actually have. So, fix the access problem before you fix that noise problem.
Does make sense. And from our data, digital literacy was the most cited barrier. And again, by leaders, multilingual content was the most requested fix. So you've already described how these barriers stack on the same employee. Can you elaborate on that a little more?
Yeah, so maybe like picture someone who, English isn't their first language and it is one of their second languages. They don't have, a company email and they've never needed an app for work before. So digital literacy is a barrier that gets cited because it's visible and easy to name. Multilingual content is the fix that gets requested before because it feels solvable, but the same worker needs both solved at once plus a way to access the program that doesn't assume a personal smartphone, with data. Plus enrollment that doesn't require, reading a paragraph of legal languages. So solve one barrier and you haven't actually reached them. You've just moved to kind of the next wall, really.
So, talking about the next wall, with all of this in mind, how do we actually try to include a frontline workforce with no company email, no computer access?
Yes. So first, physical access points. So maybe on-site kiosks. I know some, companies have, on-site iPads or dedicated computers to pull out and use. Printed materials is always one that I always recommend. Definitely QR codes. I love a QR code. Something at, the time clock is just easy. Second, a text-based enrollment option. So since almost everyone has a personal phone, even without a company one, Slack or Teams integration is genuinely useful. But not only for the population already, because they already have kind of a company account. So that integration is really helpful and useful for those notification systems and kind of getting your first, set up. It really does nothing for someone who was never issued one. So definitely taking advantage of that. The sequencing matters. So you need to build the low tech access first and then layer in the digital convenience on top for the people who can use it.
That does sound easy to implement, though. And coming back to an earlier point, most leaders wanted to escape manual reward fulfillment and automated communications rather than rethink the reward itself. So, what does this behavior tell you?
It tells me that it has really become an admin burden is what actually is driving the frustration, not the reward itself. So no one's losing sleep over whether the reward is a gift card or points. They're losing sleep over spending 3 hours a week manually processing, redemptions and things like that. When we've automated that piece, the complaints about the program in general go down noticeably even through the reward structure, didn't change at all. So people conflate this, rewards program as bad and all with, this rewards program is a pain to run. And it's almost the second one, right?
Okay, and on the buyer side, integration, reporting, and security function are purchase gates. On the program side, though, which of those causes the most trouble after the contract is signed?
I would say, reporting, integration, and security really get scrutinized hard in the evaluation because they're deal breakers if they fail outright. Someone will notice immediately if the data isn't showing or the security isn't compliant. Reporting is one that, looks fine in the demo and then kind of falls apart within 6 months because the demo shows, you can clean a dashboard, and nobody stress tests whether it can actually produce the specific cut of data your CEO is going to ask for in Q3. So buyers should be asking for a sample of the exact report that they need to run, not just a look at the dashboard. So definitely kind of honing into what the reporting looks like because that's kind of can be a tell-all sign on the program and what you're kind of looking for.
Understood. And there was another unexpected finding on the report. A lot of leaders place so much importance on peer benchmark data. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, they're trying to answer the am I about to get banned for this, honestly. And a benchmark gives them cover if their numbers are in line with peers. It's an industry problem, not a them problem. But a benchmark really actually settles anything because every organization's population, industry, and program maturity are different enough that the comparison is soft at best. It doesn't resolve the underlying question, it gives leaders a number to point into the room.
And coming to another unexpected revelation, we did not find data migration or, for example, historical participation from their earlier programs, migrating that to the new program as a challenge. So, does that match what you see?
Um, That's early. Nobody hit it yet because most of these organizations haven't gone through a vendor switch or a system, consolidation. I would say maybe like give it a year. Once someone tries to migrate off, a platform merge from an acquisition, this becomes one of the loudest complaints in the next version.
And is there anything missing from a report? Something that you hear constantly from HR and benefit leaders that does not appear anywhere in our report?
Um, I would say maybe, some more manager buy-in, but that specifically. I think when it comes to a lot of these wellness programs, you glance over that topic and those stakeholders involved, but not really, backing up from that buy-in from those managers. I think that full support and having them being able to kind of, go into the wellness program and, build out reports and work with these, HR and benefits leaders because the managers aren't the only ones being surveyed.
Yeah, thank you for that insight. And we wanted to ask you, what is the most critical finding from the report? A takeaway of sorts.
Um, the engagement problems, getting treated as a, really marketing problem from the platform when they're actually a design and access problem. Every other finding in the report is a variation on the same theme. People asking for that fix is the easiest request instead of the fix that's actually structured.
Thank you so much for your time.